G'day guys, how you doing? It's the Kiwi, back with another video. Yes, I know, it's been a while, however, here I am. My apologies, because it actually has been a while. I'm just, in all sincerity, fellas, and ladies, I'm just really busy. I really am. But anyway, I had a subscriber a few months back ask me about my thoughts or opinion in regards to the battle of the sexes. And in all sincerity, I actually don't see a battle of the sexes going on in any way, shape or form. What I see is actually a very, very natural progression of both the feminine and the masculine, actually in many respects splitting off and going, for want of a better term, their own way. And the reason why I say that is, and I've spoken about this a lot over the last number of years, is actually understanding this ancient esoteric knowledge. Because it would seem that the elders, the people, humans, the beings that were around tens of thousands of years ago were a lot more up to speed on stuff than what we are today. So when I'm looking at subjects like this, or a subject like the battle of the sexes and how this split is going on, I look at it esoterically. And there's a reason, because I've shown you a book numerous times in regards to a group of power players that are using ancient esoteric knowledge against us to actually better themselves in life. So you have to look at this ancient knowledge, this ancient wisdom. And when you start looking at this ancient knowledge and wisdom, you actually start to see just what is actually going on. You start to see just exactly what is happening. You start to see how these power players are using us and utilizing said knowledge actually against ourselves. So to look at the battle of the sexes, we look at what the feminine and the masculine actually represent, or the supposed battle of the sexes. But like I said, let's look at the feminine, let's look at the masculine, let's see what they represent, because we live in a world of duality. I've talked about this before also, the world of opposites, where whatever you've got over here on the left, you're going to have the opposite over here on the right, and vice versa. So let's look at what the feminine and the masculine actually represent in this spectrum. On the left side, we have the feminine, okay? And the feminine is actually represented by the left side of the spectrum. Well, the feminine in the physical world is represented by the mother, Earth, the planet, or the disk, or whatever it is you think that we live on. The reality is, Mother Earth is representative of the feminine. This whole thing that we live on is actually feminine energy. And I say that because this planet nurtures us. It gives us all our food, our water, our air. It gives us all the materials that we need to build everything that we build, all the way down to the planet actually giving us its lifeblood, which is what we would know as crude oil. If we weren't actually drilling for oil, the planet would literally be bleeding oil out from its interior areas, okay? Crude oil is actually a biological process that happens in the Earth's crust and mantle. And it's actually a really interesting subject to research because of the fact that we're never going to run out of oil. That's all there is to it, because it's literally the lifeblood of the planet. It reproduces the oil or the blood just the same way as we do. So the planet nurtures us, okay? The nurturing side of the planet is maternal. The maternal is material, okay? The planet can't give us, the planet can't be maternal and give us the life that we have on this disk, ball, planet, without it being material. There's no way that it can be maternal without the material, and that's represented in the feminine. The feminine can't be maternal without knowing that she has a certain amount of material in her life to be able to bring in a child or another life form. So the reality of the situation is for a female to be maternal, she needs the material. So the feminine is actually a material-based creature. So that's what we're seeing today, is we're seeing the feminine head off more and more and more into this material world. That's why you're seeing so many of the younger generation, especially the females, becoming so materialistic. A perfect example of this is just look at Taylor Swift and her fan base, the Swifties. I mean, you'll never come across a more materialistic based group of people in your entire life. It's absolutely unbelievable. So again, the feminine is represented by Mother Earth, which is a material feminine planet. And because we have this material feminine planet, it is nurturing. It nurtures us, okay? So if that's what the feminine represents, and this is a very simple explanation, you can dive really deeply into this subject. On the right side of the spectrum is the masculine, okay? The masculine is represented by what? The Father. The Father, God. The masculine is actually represented by God. Spirituality, consciousness, because that's what true spirituality is being conscious. It's not being all woo-woo. Being a truly spiritual person is being aware of your consciousness. For man, our consciousness isn't a root consciousness of materialism, it's a higher consciousness of a spiritual divine consciousness. So the Father is also the creator of everything in the entire universe. So the men themselves are the creators of all this stuff. And we create all this stuff so we can make the money, so we can bring a woman into our world, and that woman feels comfortable about the material stuff that she has around her, so she'll think about bringing children into the world. The other thing is that the Father is the seed of life. What is the seed of life that God gives us? It is our soul. It is the energy that is inside of us that gives us life. If we don't have that life force, our soul inside of us, that electricity, that energy, we what? We die. Plain and simple. I've experienced it myself. Twice, to be honest. So the reality is that's represented in the physical world by the masculine as giving the seed of life to the feminine. Without that seed, without the masculine, the male, giving the woman his seed, she can't bring life into this world. So what the masculine represents esoterically, and then how it manifests in the world physically, you can also see the same on the feminine side. And they're both directly opposite of each other. The feminine is now heading head first off into the material world. So what are the men doing? They're going their own way. Now you know why I started a channel on the subject of men going their own way. So the reality of the situation is that the younger men now are literally going their own way. They're pulling back from having relationships. They're pulling back from the material world. And they're becoming more reclusive. Now, what happens when a man becomes more reclusive? He starts spending more time with himself. He actually starts learning about himself at a far higher consciousness. Okay? Now, the problem is today, these young men that are out there are being told that they're losers, they're deadbeats, they're zeros, they're worthless, all sorts of stuff. And to actually add insult to injury, you've actually got a lot of supposed self-help guys out there who are actually pushing guys back into the material world when they're actually naturally going off in the direction that they need to go off into. And here's the thing. This is something that's very, very interesting. This was left out of the Christian Bible for Western society. If you read, say, a Middle Eastern Bible like the Jordanian Bible, what you will learn is that when Jesus left Bethlehem at around 11, 12 years of age, he spent a whole bunch of time in the Asian areas learning ancient esoteric knowledge. It's actually in the Jordanian Bible. You can read this stuff. And it's in other Bibles out there also. It just happens to have been left out of our Bible. So in certain countries, Christianity is actually taught correctly, where men need to go off and spend time alone. That's what it says in the Bible, where Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the forest alone. Okay, the 40 days and 40 nights is actually more representative of 40 years, to be quite honest with you, because a man doesn't really start becoming a man genuinely until he's most probably, if he is conscious and awake to himself, it's going to take him to about 50 to really start figuring everything out. And that's the God's honest truth. Because, again, the feminine goes through a physical change to become a woman. She goes through this physical manifestation. She gets her chest. She goes through some serious physical changes. Her hips, her whole body changes. That initiates a woman into being a woman. A man, being a conscious, spiritual being, has to go through a spiritual journey. So a real man, a genuinely real man, will actually start going through some sort of spiritual journey. He'll start spending more time alone. He'll start pulling back inside of himself. And you see this with a lot of older men who have actually spent a huge amount of time in the material world doing everything for family, business, corporations, whatever. And that stuff is very, very feminine. And you'll start seeing older men starting to pull back inside of themselves. They pull back and they start spending more and more time alone. Well, in today's day and age, we're seeing that happen far sooner with young men. And the reality of the situation is these young men aren't crazy. They aren't losers. They're actually going down an incredibly gifted natural path. And I've been starting to talk to a number of these young men, like they work out at the gym and stuff like that. And they're all into their philosophy. They're not into relationships. They're abstaining from sex. They're leading healthy lives. They don't smoke. They don't drink alcohol. They're doing all this amazing stuff that when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. So what I'm seeing is, and I'm not saying all young men, but a certain spectrum of the young men. And these guys, every one of them that I've spoken to have all been 25 and younger. Anyone over 25, 27, 30 and older in the last wave of the millennials, whew, yeah, there's a real lost group of men there. They're the ones I feel sorry for. So we're seeing this stuff more and more and more. We're seeing this more on the masculine side of things with the younger men. So there's really no battle going on. The battle is how the power players behind the scenes have been manipulating things to their advantage. And one of those things that they did in regards to manipulating the whole playing field was issuing in feminism and rocketing woman off into this deeply materialistic, hedonistic world. And because they know what was coming down the pipeline. They knew exactly what was going to be happening with humanity as a whole. So they, in understanding that ancient esoteric knowledge, they manipulated the playing field to actually get women earning more money And what came from women earning more money was out of control, unabated materialism and spending, which put more money into the power players' pockets. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So another aspect of this whole time period is wars are actually extremely feminine. Going into other countries and ruining other countries' backyards is extremely feminine. There's so many things that are oozing femininity. It is unreal. So Western society as a whole is so overly feminized. It is absolutely unbelievable. So it's no wonder that you're now seeing younger men going, we don't want to have anything to do with this stuff. This whole world that we're living in right now, this is so feminine that it's nauseating to them. They don't know why they're doing it, but that's why they're heading off into themselves to actually start to rediscover that masculine side of themselves, which is actually a higher level of consciousness, which equates to a spiritual awakening in many respects. However, it's not a spiritual awakening in the woo-woo sense. It's a spiritual awakening to your own consciousness and who you are as a man. So that's the video in regards to the battle of the sexes. If you've made it this far, I'm sure I'm going to get some interesting comments in regards to this subject. But yeah, I'm going to start busting out more videos. At least I'm going to try to do a video once a week down here at the shop and get it out to you guys. Alrighty, so other than that, until the next video comes out, keep it real, guys. Hope you're doing well. Alrighty, cheers.